part 2 of my Revenge of the Sith full film breakdown. Let's get right into it. So yeah, after Anakin confronts the Chancellor, he goes back to Mace Windu. And they have talk about the Chancellor, and I like you could tell the confliction inside Anakin, but the rest is history, and it's like Mace tells him to stay, and it's like it makes sense for Mace to tell him to stay because it's like Mace knows that Anakin could interfere in ways that aren't positive towards arresting the Chancellor, if you will. And so yeah, he kind of, and then they obviously go, the Jedi come, and obviously yes, the Chancellor kills the every other Jedi. Like Mace came through the Jedi, and yes, the Chancellor did kill them pretty quickly. But I guess he did catch them by surprise. But at the same time, it's like originally the Jedi didn't want to kill him, but eventually, obviously, it's fine. It's those Jedis were kind of like literally those Jedis were there just to make the Emperor look good. In the scene, they're like, okay, let's have 4 Jedis. 3 of them are gonna get killed because we want to show that Palpatine's so strong, and then the duel is really gonna be about Mace and the Emperor. And so it's like, oh, okay. Again, it's not the greatest, but I really like the duel. I think it's great because you see the setting over the course of 3 films, but you never really see anything, I guess, that exciting happen in this setting, a Chancellor's office. And so it's cool to finally see some action in the setting that this setting seems really cool, and to see that duel with the wind on the balcony of Palpatine's office. It's great. It's a great location. And obviously Anakin cuts off his arm, and I like seeing because we always wonder how is Palpatine's face so scarred, and it's for his what look in the power of this world can make his face so deformed, and it's oh yeah, Force lightning. And so that was cool to see Force lightning, and I love this film also because it picks up the pieces where it's that's what I always think is the first 2 films are just setups for this film. That's the truth of the matter. Is those 2 films just to me don't really matter. When you think of the original trilogy, every single film in the original trilogy, they matter. They go through Luke's journey, but the thing about Anakin's journey is it's just weird because it's the example would be if Luke's journey started when he was 8, and then the next film he's 18, or yeah, and it's, it would be the same thing as and then in return, and then it's because when you think of Anakin's journey, it doesn't progress in a unique way because everything you need to know, because this whole thing is to set up the events of the original trilogy. Luke and Leia being twins. Who's the mother? Who's Anakin's wife? How did Anakin turn to the dark side? How did the Palpatine raise to power? How did the Empire start? What's Anakin and Obi-Wan's relations like, and all this stuff. And just telling a good story. But you don't really see that in the other 2. So it's this film, you truly, this is the film where you pick up the pieces. Why is the Emperor deformed? See this here. How did Anakin become Darth Vader? See that here. Luke and Leia, here. How Luke and Leia get split up, here. How does Anakin turn into the war machine than man Darth Vader? Here. How does the Empire begin? Here. And so everything you need to know is here. That's why I love this film so much, is when it makes the original so much better on top of just being a good, distraught and heartbreaking story in and of itself. And so yeah, and then immediately Anakin turns to Darth Vader, and I have to say, it's great acting. You can see his, Hayden Christensen's face, just the anger, and I guess guilt, maybe, I don't know. But it's still exciting. You just see it just melt down. You just see the face of, he doesn't do something he likes, but slowly but surely seduced. And then just this, being blinded by his own want not just for power, but blind. Like I said, blind power. And so that he gets sent to Mustafar, and they talk about. I love the Emperor's speech about once more we shall have peace, and like he's picking up all these pieces because you wonder, but because it's like this whole glaring question: how does the Empire start? Because many people are like, oh, what's the difference between the Empire and the Separatists? Well, I'll tell you the difference. The difference is the Empire uses Republic weapons. So you think of Star Cruisers, came from Republic. Clones / stormtroopers came from a Republic. Imperials and came from the Republic, and this is Imperial officers, but originated from Republic officers. So all like the military style, if you will, all came from the Republic. But the beliefs came from the Separatists. So it's like the weapon of the Republic, but the belief of the Separatists. And the war itself is a lot different. This is a civil, like, what I mean by that is like, this one is two sides of the same coin. This is like one coin versus like a nickel, if you know what I mean. Where it's like a giant corrupted army against a tiny, they're rebels for a reason. Rebels because they're the underdogs. In this case, it's Republic versus the Separatists, or two even factions going at it. This is lion versus the mouse. This is lion versus lion, I guess, to make an analogy. Anyways, back onto the topic. So then he decides to execute Order 66. This scene's great, especially with the Clone Wars. You see the clones matter, and you see their relationship with the Jedi. So this scene is, in the nature of it, extremely heartbreaking, extremely sad to see all these Jedis go, and just a glaring, amazing scene where it's like Star Wars goes so dark in the scene. So it's like Jedi, Plo Koon, Ki-Adi-Mundi. Yoda, like you see Yoda panicking out. And I love seeing Chewie. By the way, I talked about this before. I love that Chewie doesn't have a huge role, but his being a support system for Yoda, great. And then Yoda decapitates the troopers, and it's just a great scene, I think. And then seeing like Cody, our only real named clone in this, and when the time of this release, minutes ago, giving Obi-Wan his lightsaber, then blasting him down, and then jumps into the water. And such an interesting perspective for you to pal, because you see like this. You see the only real war you see before Order 66 is in Utapau, and I guess the beginning, of course, on Utapau. It's so like this is a prime example of how like one war is going on, but then a whole new war starts. Like that's part of the fascination of the Clone Wars. Is where it's like, what if I told you what if I just said, can you imagine a war between two factions, and then none of them win, instead a new group started? It's like if, again, another analogy, it's like if in like this situation of two factions starting, neither of them win, instead a whole new faction of government starts. The only way that can happen is if someone's in the middle. That middle person pulls it in a whole new faction. I think that's interesting. But anyways, back onto it. The film. I get so sidetracked, but that's the truth. And then, so Anakin and Padme have a nice talk. And like, many people are like, why is Padme so naive? That's not the case. Why would she assume Anakin would do something bad? You hear the story of all these Jedi's died. What are the odds that Anakin would do it? Obviously, it turns out, yes, Anakin was behind it. But you didn't know. And I love the sequence of Anakin walking up the Jedi Temple, and behind him are the 501st, or at least half of the 501st, And I guess, again, like, it puts a lot of context, knowing how important the 501st are to Anakin, as you see, once again, in Clone Wars. And then finally gets deployed to Mustafar. I love the sequence when he kills all the Trade Federation and Techno Union people. Again, I think it is very interesting because it's like around the last quarter of the film is Empire versus all, where it's like you see Anakin, who's very much the villain of this film, and the Emperor, killing battle droids. So it's like the villain army is the battle droid, right? Part of the Separatists. And your villains are killing. Like, it's interesting because like it's a story where there's villains, but then all the villains get destroyed by the villains. So in this film, it's kind of interesting where it's like you have 3 different parties. 2 parties in the middle of war, and then 1 forming. I think that is very exciting and very interesting. Where it's not like the war ends. It's that they all join the Empire. You know what I mean? The Jedi get extinct. Jedi were leading the Republic War. So it's like all the Republic soldiers join the Empire. Meaning, obviously, clones, and then Republic guards, Republic Imperials all go towards the Empire, as well as the clone troopers. So now it's just the Jedi. Well, Order 66 kills all the Jedi. So suddenly, the whole Republic is gone. At the same time, Anakin's destroying the Separatists. Because Grievous gets killed, Count Dooku gets killed. So suddenly, Separatists get wiped out, Jedi get wiped out, and everybody from the Republic joins the Empire. So it's kind of like a fascinating kind of thing. And so Mustafar, by the way, is a great planet. And, I love the scene where Obi-Wan and Yoda, and mainly Obi-Wan's reaction to seeing what Anakin did to younglings and all that. That was great. Seeing, because like you understand their relationship, and I don't give credit to develop their relationship to Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones. I give that credit to the Clone Wars, and so that's just great. That's great. So great stuff there. Obi-Wan goes to Padme, and what I love about the scene, Anakin and Padme, is like there's 2 people who care about Obi-Wan, but just Obi-Wan, who is barely convinced himself that Anakin's turning into Palpatine's pupil, but now has to convince Padme. And it's just a great scene of 2 people who genuinely care about Anakin, talking it out and all that stuff. And then they go to Mustafar, and Obi-Wan sneaks on board, and then Padme and Anakin have a talk. And you could just see, like, I love the location of Mustafar because it's so resemblant of Anakin, When you look at it, it's just resemblant of the fire he's in, and how fire will lead him to be who he truly is, the Darth Vader we truly know. It's so symbolic, and I really enjoy it. And, and it's like everything he does makes sense, because it's like knowing how Anakin wants to be the most powerful Jedi, wants everything to happen in his favor, and does this. The straw that broke the camel's back was that he wanted to save Padme. Now this idea that he brought Obi-Wan to bring him against, it's all this crazy stuff that's like Anakin, who always acts out of anger because he becomes seduced. Where it's like Sith act out of anger, and you just see that it's that prime example here. And then you get a great duel between Obi-Wan and Anakin, and it's just great. Like I said, it's great. It's really good. It's phenomenal what they were able to accomplish with this duel. It's like 8 minutes long, but you're so invested because you love the location. You know the dynamic, and it's just a great choreography throughout. 2 great friends battling out with prime Jedi moves, and it's like I think the biggest part is their relationship. Master versus apprentice, the 2 main heroes of this story going at it, and one is fiercely the villain of this story, and then you got our hero, Obi-Wan Kenobi. I love Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan stands out obviously because he has the best acting chops, Ewan McGregor, But yes, he still stands out nonetheless. And then Yoda and the Emperor duel in a great location. It's a great location. I love fighting in the Senate chamber. And I forgot, I skipped a moment. You know, the moment where Palpatine declares this is the Empire. It's so great because you see this through Bail Organa, who is, you see this through Bail Organa and Padme. The irony there is Bail Organa's Leia's stepmom or stepfather. Padme is Leia's real mom. And so I love I love seeing that. I do. And so it is interesting. It is interesting because it's like this is like the moment where the Empire belongs, because it's as simple as, being that he has so much power already, if he's going to call it the Empire, he's going to call it the Empire. And then they go off. I love how it kind of sets up the rebellion in this film. So that's really phenomenal stuff, where it's like you really feel like there is no stone unturned, because it's like, has the Empire start here, Darth Vader here, Obi-Wan here, Luke and Leia here, the adoption of Leia here, Luke going to Tatooine here. So you really get that full picture. And honestly, I wouldn't be sad if the saga ended here, because it's like you get the full story just in the original trilogy. This is all extra. You didn't need anything else. And my only concern going into the sequels was that it was gonna harm the originals. That was my only concern, because it's like, more Star Wars, great. But some of my worst fears came true, like the Palpatine coming back, like all this crazy stuff where it's like, you don't need any of that. You didn't need any of that. But we'll get to that later. I was seeing the whole sequence where Vader gets his armor, gets his mask, all great iconic stuff. Obviously, I didn't really like. So there's a lot of stuff to like in this film. I love this film. It's my third favorite Star Wars film, behind Empire and Return of the Jedi. And I just love it. I really do. I really do get a big kick out of Star Wars Revenge of the Sith. I really do love it. So yeah, that's my second part of Star Wars Revenge of the Sith full film breakdown.